What type of managers do we want in our dealerships? In this episode, we're talking about managers again and refining our understanding of the role of managers and how that can lead to better teams in our dealerships.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Welcome back. In this episode, we're going to talk about managers again. In a recent episode, we talked about training for managers and some of the training that we should seek to deliver to all of our managers. Now, we're going to step actually back a little bit and talk about what role managers play in our dealerships, at least traditionally, and how we can refine and alter and mature that role to a person that's better able to facilitate high-functioning teams. So, traditionally, in the automotive space, there's been a really traditional view of managers. We have really management-intensive operations in automotive, so all of our dealerships have multiple managers, depending on the size of our dealerships, potentially multiple levels of management. We have management-intensive businesses. But we view our managers typically in this field as having very traditional managerial roles, where they're supposed to be the decider-in-chief. They're supposed to make all of the big decisions, and they are supposed to be subject matter experts in the field that they manage, that they should have substantial experience specifically in that area that they're responsible for managing. And we run very, very hierarchical operations. And to be sure, there is a place for that. But evolving our understanding of the role of the manager can lead to better outcomes. And you've seen this in the corporate world. In the corporate world where they've tried to flatten their operations a little bit, and the manager role has evolved over time. And as a result, they're getting more effective teams built. So instead of thinking of the manager as this decider-in-chief and this person who is supposed to provide direction for every step of the way, tell people how to do their jobs in a sequential fashion, supervise them in the performance, have disciplinary interventions and stuff like that going on, where you have more of a two-way line of communication. And instead of the manager making all the decisions, as much as possible, the organizations seek to push decision-making lower into their operation and empower people at lower levels to make appropriate decisions. The benefits of this is the person that is most engaged in the task has the most information to be able to accomplish it. If decisions about the task that they're performing are pushed above them, they're pushed above them to a level that operates with less information. And as a result, the manager is less informed, has less ability, at least in terms of real-time task intelligence, in order to make a well-informed and appropriate decision. And as a result, you have a loss of efficiency. And so your flatter organizations where we try to push our decision-making down to the lowest appropriate functional level are actually tend to be more efficient. Organizations that are overly hierarchical have a tendency to micromanage decision-making, have a tendency to operate on less information, and as a result, there's a big loss in efficiency. Our organizations as dealerships are not big enough to tolerate efficiently a high level of hierarchy. We want to work towards having really efficient people making decisions on the tasks that they're working on. Now, what does this look like in real life in the dealership? You're still going to have important decisions that need to be reserved for managers. But the more that you could push that decision-making down to a lower level, the more efficiency if the person is properly trained and properly equipped, you're going to have better outcomes. It then transforms the manager role into one of facilitating. Their job, instead of making all the decisions, is to make sure that their people below them are properly equipped with what they need to make good, sound decisions. This is in terms of training, in terms of resources, in terms of skill sets, in terms of cross-department communication. The manager's role is to create space for their employees to do a good job. And as a result, you're building teams. You are building teams that connect to other teams. And you are creating more fulfilling, mature jobs below the manager as a result. And so people that build skill sets and build abilities within the organization that they're filling a niche in, get more reward out of the job, they're performing better work for you, and they're finding a more fulfilling career in that position anyways, without having to promote up to manager levels themselves. This can produce longer retention, better employee performance. The manager's happy, the dealer is happy, and the employee is happy. This is one of those real win-wins that you can find. How do we get there? Well, it takes a mindset and culture shift. And that's really hard in the automotive space. We've talked about setting the culture for your dealership in previous episodes, but it really does require changing that managerial culture to one of, I'm going to tell you how to do step A, step B, step C, and supervise you every way along the process, to I am going to get you trained up to perform step A and then step B and step C, and then I'm going to step back and I'm going to give you greater increasing autonomy, and I'm going to connect you to peers that you're going to perform these steps with, and then I'm going to supervise the overall results. I'm going to look for the data. I'm going to see where I can find efficiencies and we can refine this process. I'm going to build policies that support it. And when you can accomplish this, you have a much more mature, functional organization that ideally, correctly, the manager should be able to step away from or be substituted without a loss in production. And when you can do that, you know you have accomplished a great thing in the automotive space. And that's what we should all be striving for with our managers and our dealerships. With that, it's been another episode of Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Stay tuned. We've got more coming your way.
Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.